Who is that old man looking at me? Alright, so I just watched a video of a guy who wasn't doing so well. He's my age. He and I seem to have had a lot in common from the way we grow up, but he hasn't made any money and he doesn't feel so well. And to be honest, I just haven't had that experience. Because I watched that video, the Google algorithms show me like 1,000 more, well, a dozen more people in the same position. People about my age and they never made any money and they feel down, they feel despondent. This is to them because for the first time in my life, except for 2016 when I supported Trump, I don't feel as though I'm connected to my generation anymore. And look, I hope it's not too late for them, but it certainly isn't too late for their kids. And this is what I learned on my journey to not end up in that way. I do all right. I bought a BMW recently. I own my own business. Money's not a problem for me. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying I'm in a different position. This is what I learnt, and this is how you do it. I didn't do well at school. I got kicked out of uni in my first year. I started my whole path to success at 17 as a checkout chick in a friggin' supermarket, stacking boxes, putting fruit and veg out, organising the cold room. Not much more than that. I worked 70 hours a week. I know when I actually started that job at 15, I got $5.50 an hour. Criminal. I know when I left that job at 19, I was on $12.50 an hour, and I left because I tried to get $13.50 an hour. I didn't make much, but I worked extremely long hours and I stacked cash. The first thing I did was when I got paid, I transferred what I thought I could afford into a savings account, and I had a no-touch rule. I never touched it, and then I just friggin' lived within my means. Books from the library are free. TV, at least in Australia, is free. If you want to drink, you can get a big bottle of cheap alcohol from somewhere and make it last, but you don't have to spend money. You all seem very Instagram centric. I'm not on the IG myself, but in those days I was shaving my head with a pair of clippers that I had. Stubble was good, clean shaven was good, beard was good, and all I was fit from a home gym which my mate made for me at Metalwork, and push-ups and a boxing bag and one of those 3-pack of Bonds t-shirts that you had. You can get clothes from the thrift store. For the first part of my success journey, I lived within my means, and you must too, and you can. Whatever money you're making, make as much as you can and work as many hours as you can. Get as much as you can, but live within your means, and the first time that you get paid, transfer that money away into a savings account. This is why millennials and boomers don't get along, because boomers give that advice. I agree with the boomers. You can live cheaper, and you must start with savings. Once you start with savings, step 2 is you must buy assets, whether it's shares or property in a place in the world where you can afford to buy property, or whatever appreciable asset, which isn't a car, which isn't travel, which isn't education or anything like that, a proper appreciable asset. I hear Bitcoin, I don't know, buy it. Even if you chalk it up to experience and lose some, buy assets. My first ever purchases were $636 worth of Colonial shares and $512 worth of Bankwest shares. I'll never forget it, and then the day I got a dividend from that, I thought it was the greatest thing ever. I bought something like 50 different types of shares, and I've still got all my handwritten notes and graphs that I've kept for 25 years because it was such a meaningful thing to me. Eventually, I had a massive windfall. I bought something at 12 cents and I wrote it up to 54 cents, and that was it. I had made some money for a deposit, and then step 3, I went out and I bought a house. Look, different times, different prices, but there are small country towns and there are places where you can still do this. I found a house that had drug dealers and a literal drug setup in the garage in it, and the owner was trying to sell it but was too scared to evict the drug dealers. So I lowballed him, got a house that I could afford, had the police come around and evict the drug dealers themselves. And yes, the drug dealers smashed the house and I had to change the locks and I was scared, but I did it. I borrowed a little bit more money, redid the house. I put 3 strangers in it. I rented the place out for as long as I could, like 2.5, 3 years. The first time there was some sort of uptick in the market, property boom thing, I sold, I got out. I had 100 grand in the bank when I was 23. It was hard, but it can be done. And that 100 grand, the best investment that I did with that was in myself. Because in the meantime, I got an accounting degree, and whereas everyone else was graduating from uni and going out to be an accountant with like the cheapest Kmart shirt and the cheapest tie, I had like a $1,500, admittedly iridescent blue pinstripe suit on, but I was better dressed than some of the partners. And I didn't have to grovel, and I could buy people lunch. And I started out not in the pack, not in the scrum, not in the ruck, not in the rat race. I started out with an advantage in a career, and that is one of the best things I ever did. And what I learned was this, that anyone in the world can outrun Usain Bolt or whoever else is fast if Usain Bolt's in a scrum and everyone's grabbing him and pulling him and pushing him and jockeying him and he's tired. You've got to get out of the pack. And so you don't go into your career until you can do something. Some people do it with, I don't know, kleptocracy, with a family business. Some people do it because they got a Harvard degree. I didn't have those advantages, but what I had to start with was I had some money. So I started my career a bit late, but I was differentiated by a very important fact. And then I worked out that yes, no matter what you're doing, whether you're a miner or a welder or a doctor or an accountant, you have to be good at your job. If you're just good at your job, people just employ you forever. There's something that the bosses want, and mostly it's profit. And so I worked out that there's an accounting job, and yes, everyone wants a good tax return or a good audit report or something like that. Yeah, okay, but not anyone can do that, right? Only accountants can do that, and only good accountants. But what people really want is a profitable audit report or a profitable tax return. So there was some sort of budget that the partner had in mind that he or she thought, if it comes in over this or under this budget or over this profit margin, I've made money. I would pick the jobs that I could make profits on. I would make a profit. Even if I had to come in on the weekend and work for free and not put my chargeable hours down, I would make a profit. And then I would make sure that it was me that hand delivered the thing to a partner. I would make them see the whip, and I would make them see that it was profitable. And I would make them understand that it was me that had done that for them, but I wouldn't do it for them forever. Mostly, I won't say I got fired, but mostly I had to leave. It didn't always work, but I insisted on being acknowledged for my good work, and I was prepared to leave. If you're stuck in a career and you're working for them and making them money and you're not prepared to leave so that they don't make money, why would they pay you anything more? You have to be first making them lots of money. Yes, you have to serve the bosses. Yes, you have to make them a dividend. But B, you have to be prepared to take your services away so that they risk not making the dividend next year because you're not there. And I did. I moved cities. I went to Sydney, Canberra, Perth. I went to different places. Eventually, I got into a position where I had that much experience and that much wealth and that much to fall back on that I started interviewing accounting firms for my services. I interviewed 10. 9 of them laughed me out the room and thought, you arrogant prick, get out of here. But the 10th one that gave me the job, I wasn't the guy that applied for the job on Seek.com. And then when I started work, I was this, admittedly arrogant, but I was something else. I remember at that place, I had to invite one of my direct boss out of the car park to have a fight if he didn't want to show me a bit more respect. In that sort of place, I remember once I had to move into an office. That I said that I wanted an office and they didn't give it to me, so I just moved in on the weekend. They came in on Monday morning and I was sitting there. But when I wanted to go somewhere, I had to make them understand that that's what I had to have for me to stay. And it doesn't work if you're a pain in the ass and you're causing everyone problems, you're not making profit. It only works if you're making everyone a profit. And that's what you got to eventually understand. That no one wants to do welding or accounting or surgery or any other thing for their life because that's tough. Welding, you're holding the surface of the sun in your hand and you're melting metal. But people want to employ someone that's prepared to do that profitably. And you have to be that person for a short period of time that makes someone else money profitably and is prepared to leave at any given moment. And once you do that, then people pay you to stay. So you got to be prepared to go and you got to be able to do the job well. I never, in my pay rises or pay reviews, I never argued for more money. The difference between $35 an hour and $36 an hour doesn't change anything. But getting onto a profitable project, getting a better manager, a better mentor, a better team, something like that, that's what allows you to metaphorically run fast. You run fast, you make people profit. You run fast, you make people profit, and you're prepared to leave. People pay to keep you. And eventually, what really clears the books is when you get like clears the debt, is when you get like a $10,000 bonus. Or when some big windfall comes in. And that's what I live on right now. Like my day-to-day paycheck pays for everything, but then once a year I get a big fat dividend, and that's when the mortgage comes down. And that's ultimately what you're aiming as. A few more pointers. University, don't do it if it's an art degree. Don't do it if it's a history degree or an English lit degree or a cultural studies and blah, blah, blah degree. Only go to uni and incur that debt if you're prepared to do something like accounting, which everyone hates, or engineering, which is hard, or medicine, which is really hard. If it's fun, everyone will do it. If everyone's doing it, there's a lot of you. If there's a lot of you, no one's getting paid a lot because value comes from rarity. Number two, travel and cars are a waste of money. By all means, have a car. By all means, travel, but do it cheap. I only got my first luxury car ever this year at the age of 45. The car that I traded it in for $1,800. It was a shit box. But beard, muscles, shoulders, 45-year-old white male with a flannel shirt on the weekend, I can make that work for myself. I looked the part in a beat up old truck, which is what I had. But I never wasted any money on a flash car, and when I traveled, I was backpacking and staying in hostels, which was the best way to do it anyway. So there you have it, guys. Sorry if I came across as arrogant or overconfident or something like that, but this is the character that you need to be. You make the money and then you threaten to leave. That's the basic premise of it all. But so many people miss out on it. And I don't understand why people don't practice that more often. People are always saying that if you don't, like, I'm never going back to that cafe, or I'm never going back because I got a bad meal, or I'm never going back to that place because they sold me something bad. Why are you going back to your employer? It's because you're scared of leaving because you've got nothing to fall back on. You need to have at all times some $20,000, $30,000 to fall back on so you can leave them and you can tell them to stick their job up their ass. And there's a risk that you won't get a new job, but not if you're the best in the business. So you got to be good and you got to be prepared to leave. If it's too late for you, okay, maybe, I'm sure it isn't, but I'm sorry if it is and that sounds bad. I wish you all the best and I hope you will. But remember, it's not too late for your kids and you can pass these lessons on. That's enough from me. If you want to hit like and subscribe, please do. If you don't want to, it's fine as well. I make these videos for me mostly. I hope in some way it helps, and I hope you're doing well. See you guys.